All right, we'd like to welcome Shawn Jover to the line today. Active Defiance drummer, former Megadeth drummer. A lot of you guys will know him from that. And they have a great new album out called Old Scars, New Wounds, out September 29th on Metal Blade Records. Man, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh man, just living the dream.
Very good.
I was hoping that you had to reschedule the interview for a couple hours later. I was wondering if you were wishing your former boss a happy birthday today.
No. I didn't even know it was his birthday. But happy birthday to him.
It was one of those things where it popped up on Facebook, and I was like, that's kind of ironic, talking to Shawn Jover today.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but yeah, that's awesome.
So the new Active Defiance album, I've been listening to the last couple of days, and man, I think it's great, man. I think you guys, you and Chris and the fellas over there are doing a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really solid record, and we worked really hard on it, so we're definitely pleased with the outcome.
With this one, I know that the first one was a little bit more 50-50, you and Chris writing songs. With the second album, were the other guys able to contribute a little bit more? Was there a different writing process for this album?
Well, the main difference is when Chris and I formed back the Defiance, we had no bandmates, obviously. It was just the two of us who decided to start a new band. And we just decided, while we're looking for bandmates and a record company and management, all the other 12 things that we had to do, I said, we just kind of decided, well, let's just write a record. And, once we find bandmates, at least musically, the puzzles will be in place. And that's exactly what we did. With the new record, we played I think we played 110 shows in support of the last record cycle. So obviously with Matt and Henry in place, you get to know each other's mannerisms and so forth. And it turns out that all four of us are songwriters, so it really made it a lot easier in the sense to write this record, because instead of the burden being on Chris and myself writing everything, I obviously knew Matt was a great songwriter from his work in Shadows Fall, but I really didn't know that Henry was a good songwriter as well. So it kind of really played to our advantage to have everybody in the band who were capable songwriters. So it certainly made the record a little more seamless than the first one. Not to say that the first one was difficult, but it was just a different process. But again, having four people, all four guys in the band being songwriters, is definitely a beneficial thing.
And with the process of this one, I know that in the reading about it, there was a lot of talk about a lot of file sharing, a lot of sending files around. Did you guys ever hash out stuff in a room together, or was it completely over the internet?
It's all done over the internet. That's really not that uncommon anymore. Certainly for projects, we're anything but a project. We're a real band, but nowadays you can have a singer in England and a guitar player in LA and a bass player in Yugoslavia doing a project. It's really not a big deal with the advent of the internet and Pro Tools and everything. So for us, again, with Chris and I doing that first record, that's kind of how it went down. Matt lives just outside of Boston, and so, he did all bass tracks in his studio, and with this new record, it was just kind of like we just demoed a bunch of songs, and we kind of hashed it out that way in terms of hey, what do you think of this? Well, why don't you change this part or double this part or take this part out? We kind of hashed it out through the internet, which really is a simple process, or it was for us. So we're quite comfortable doing it that way instead of spending an exorbitant amount of money, flying to LA, getting hotels, just so we can all be in the studio and pay an insane amount of money every day in the studio. That's that was all great back in the day, and that's how everything was done. Nowadays, you can make a fantastic product for a fraction of the cost, and that's kind of the route we're taking.
You've done records, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. What do you prefer? Would you have preferred to get in a room and hash it out, or at this point, you understand how to write a song and what's going on, so you don't mind the file sharing?
I don't mind either scenario. I mean, to be honest with you, I've never really been in a room with a band hashing out anything. I mean, it's with the Eidolon stuff that I did years ago with my brother. I wrote pretty much all those songs. And God, back then, I was in the '90s. There was no Pro Tools or anything like that. So I would literally send cassettes
Right.
to my brother in Canada and say, here's the tunes, and he would learn them, and I would fly up there every Thanksgiving and cut drums for a new record. I mean, that's kind of how we did it back in the day for that band. And it's I've never really been in a situation where, we're all 4 or 5 band guys, whatever the situation is, we're all hashing out and jamming on stuff. It's never really been like that for me, per se. So this is not, doing the Act of Defiance stuff was nothing new. Not to say that I wouldn't do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, I think nowadays it's really, the cost of all that is so expensive now, and the budgets have gone down considerably from what it was back in the day as well. So, I think, again, with Pro Tools and everything, it's really made it affordable for bands to be able to release a great sounding product where if you're smart and you know what you're doing, you can do it in different locations, and it's really not that big of a deal. So I can't speak for everyone, but I definitely speak for what we've done in Act of Defiance. For us, we've been doing this a long time, so this is not really something that's that new for us.
So looking back on your career, I was kind of taken aback by something, and it looks like Act of Defiance is your third band. The Eidolon, Megadeth, and then Act of Defiance. Is that pretty accurate? It looks like you were in the pre-Megadeth band for years and years, and then you were obviously the longest tenured drummer in Megadeth, and then now on to Act of Defiance. That's pretty remarkable.
I was in a band called Infernal Majesty as well, who are a real underground cult kind of thrash metal band. That was in 1987, I think. God, it was so long ago. Yeah, it was actually 30 years ago, if memory serves me. I was in that band for about almost a year, and then I moved to America from Toronto, Canada, and that was the main reason why I quit that band. I just wanted to move on and do something different. I felt I was, I don't know, I just felt like I was going nowhere in Toronto at the time, and I wanted to do something different with my life, so I did. But yeah, I was with that band for about a year. And again, that's not a band that's sold a bazillion records, but credibility-wise, they're very well respected in the thrash community. For those who know the old school stuff, they're definitely pioneers at what they were doing at the time. If you listen to the record, that None Shall Defy record, it was put out 30 years ago this year, and in my opinion, it still stands up to this day as one of the best thrash metal albums ever put out, in my opinion, certainly. So it was fun to be part of that. I didn't record the record, but I joined the band right after we recorded it. They parted ways with their bass player and their drummer, and I stepped in and played with them for about a year. So it was fun.
All right, so 4 bands. I mean, even at that, I mean, at someone that's kind of went into that Megadeth thing. I think that a lot of the times, like a James Lomenzo who was in, a bunch of bands prior to Megadeth. I mean, it's remarkable to me to see somebody like that, and actually, maybe stick with bands throughout the time.
I mean, for me, I can't speak for anybody else. I can only speak for myself. When I'm in a band, I'm there 110%. So, it's really not, it doesn't seem weird to me at all that I've only been in really 4 professional bands in my career. And really the Eidolon stuff, I mean, we put out, of course we were a professional band, but, we didn't tour. We played, a festival here and there in Europe, and did a couple of shows in America and some shows in Canada, but it's not like we were a touring outfit. But again, we put out 5 records with that band, and, if I'm in a band, I theoretically, I try to, when I start out, it's something that I want to be in for the long haul. It's not something I'm going to jump ship in a year or two. I don't see the point in that. So it's not a surprise to me that the bands I've been in, I've been in for quite a while. You know, Active Defiance, of course, is a new band, but you know, I'm hoping that this is the band that I'm going to retire with. I don't, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Active Defiance is on Metal Blade Records, which is obviously a well-established metal label, well-respected metal label. The Eidolon stuff looks like some of that was out on Metal Blade too. Was that where the connection was there for you, or like everybody that worked on those old records back then? You know, maybe the only person left is Brian Slagle.
No, I mean that was a homecoming for me in a sense, I suppose. I mean, I started my career with Brian and Metal Blade back in the late '90s with Eidolon, and again, once Chris and I started Active Defiance, obviously one of the things we needed to do was find a record label. So, I mean, we didn't even have Matt in the band at the time. We sent Brian and Metal Blade, as well as a bunch of other labels, two demo songs. With Henry, we had other vocalists who tried it as well, but when we picked Henry, we sent Brian and people at Metal Blade 2 songs, and within 4 days we had a written contract on the table. So they had faith in what we were doing, and they saw, obviously, from our history, you know, I've known those guys and worked with them for years, and Chris has known everybody at Metal Blade for years as well. So, you know, I thought it was really cool that the fact that they had faith in us and knew that we were going to deliver a good product without even really hearing a whole lot of it, you know. So again, kudos to them for stepping up and believing in what we were doing. And, you know, we haven't let them down yet.
Yeah, I think having a second quality album like the album that's about to come out now, The Old Scars, New Wounds, kind of does solidify that this is not a project and that this is actually a band together.
Well, yeah, projects don't play 110 shows to support a record. So, I mean, no, our intention has nothing to do with any kind of superstar crap thing that some people would like to tag this to be, which to me is laughable. We're just 4 guys who, you know, decided to get together and form a new band and create new music. So, you know what I mean? This is a band. I mean, our intentions are to tour after every release. We obviously did that on the last record, and we're going to do even more so on this record, and that will continue with every new release that we put out. I mean, that's what real bands do. They go on tour and they support the product, and they play to the people who enjoy the music that they make. That's how you build a following.
What's the crowd response to you guys been?
It's been great. Yeah, people come to the shows. They you know, again, it's not like somebody's going to come to your face and tell you suck. You know what I mean?
Right. They keep that for the internet.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Which whatever. Again, yeah. I mean, it's, you know, the people come to the shows by and large are ones who want to hear what you know what you're doing. I mean, why would somebody spend $30 or whatever ticket costs are going to be to go see a show for something that they hate? And I'm sure some people do that, and you know, again, that is what it is, and you know, but we haven't had any bad experiences in terms of people coming up and saying, you know, this or that, you know, anything with any kind of negative connotation to it. It's all been really positive, and you know, it's a great thing. You know what I mean? Again, this is a new band, and you know, this is what we have to do to build the following. Is you just got to go out there and do the grunt work, and we've definitely proven that in spades in the first record that we're willing to do whatever we need to do, you know, and again, it's going to be even more so with this record. So, but we want to spread out and obviously play more places than we need to get over to Europe and South America, Latin America, and everywhere that we can play. So that's really our goal for this record, is to play more territories.
So kind of back to the, you know, file sharing and things like that. When you go to record, also it tends to seem that the new way to tour is not necessarily, you know, a 6-9 month grinding tour. I mean, it's 2 weeks on, a couple of weeks off, you know, extended periods here and there. It's not necessarily the old school, just, you know, get on the road and go. Is that what you guys are planning on doing? What's the touring schedule look like for Active Defiance?
I think I think the mentality we have is to play as many shows as we can in front of as many people as we can. That's the old school sensibility to how I grew up, and that, you know, you would go see bands that you love, that, you buy the record and then they would be coming on tour and you would go see them. There really were no projects or super groups or any of that kind of thing back in the day when I grew up, certainly. So, that's what we like to do. That's what we've always liked to do is to play live and to get that reaction from the people who dig what we're doing. And playing in front, again, being we're in a position where it's best for us to be the support act on a bigger tour. So for us to get exposure in different kinds of situations is the way we need to go, and that's what we want to do going forward. So, in a sense, that's kind of a challenge, but it's something that we want to be in that kind of situation where we can, potentially win over people who may not have even been exposed to this band or even know who we are. You know what I mean? And that to us is exciting. Being a new band, it's kind of a fresh and exciting thing for us. So, we're looking forward to doing that as much as we can with this new release.
And kind of getting to your live on stage playing. I mean, you're left-handed, but you play open-handed. Some of the only people I know, I've had, Gene Hoglan on the show kind of talking about why he plays open-handed. Do you feel like that's maybe an advantage for the way you play or anything like that? I mean, what kind of made you want to start playing kind of that open-handed way?
Well, for me, I'm left-handed. So when I started, I jumped on my buddy's kit, to which, of course, he was right-handed. So being a kid, you just don't even know any better. So it felt comfortable to me. I didn't even think about, these guys play this way. I mean, there was no video reference. There was no YouTube, or there was nothing back in the 70s to even kind of reference that kind of thing. I just kind of jumped on it and said, okay, well, all right, this kind of works or whatever, and just kind of went with it, and over time, of course, you see that, most guys don't play like how I played. But I never even really gave it a second thought because it worked for me. And, obviously, Gene is a great drummer, and, guys like Simon Phillips and Lenny White, who's a great, fantastic jazz drummer. There's guys that play open-handed and do a fantastic job. So if it's cool for them, it's certainly cool for me.
I'm guessing the mechanics of, playing left-handed on a right-handed kit. I mean, I guess you started so early that it didn't even matter. I guess it didn't feel wrong to you at the time, I guess.
No, it didn't. And yeah, I didn't even know what a ride cymbal was or any of that stuff. So it was just a matter of kind of, and when I got my first kit, I set it up like a right-handed kit. So I didn't know. There was no reference point for me growing up in a small town in Montreal, Canada. There was no huge scene with 30 rock drummers who were my age. There was none of that. So I didn't even pay it any mind, to be honest with you. I felt comfortable doing what I was doing and learning the way I was learning, and so I felt no need to try to emulate somebody or whatever it was. It was working for me to an extent, and I just kind of built upon that and just went from there.
All right, I'm gonna go a little off path for a second, but did you recently play golf with John Daly?
I played the tournament that John was in that I played was a tournament called Monday After the Masters, which I played I think 4 years in a row now. It's a tournament sponsored by Hootie and the Blowfish, and they do a charitable event every year and raise millions of dollars for the scholastic system in South Carolina. And over the years, I think they've been doing it now 22 or 23 years, and they've had all kinds of star golfers and athletes and musicians and you name it. And I didn't play with John, but John was there. Actually, I jumped up on stage and played a couple of tunes, and John was right there on the side of the stage watching me. So I just started a conversation with him when I was done, and I'm a big fan of his and stuff. So it was great to talk to him. But there's tons of professional golfers who play that event. So a lot of them I've become friends with over the years. So that to me that's something that I really enjoy doing. Outside of what I do as a musician, that's another passion that I have in my life is playing golf. So for me, that's a lot of fun to do when I have the time to do it.
How often do you get to play?
I played every day this week. I mean, I'm up in New Hampshire right now, just playing golf and stuff. So I mean, when I can, I play as often as I can. It just depends on, you know, if I'm on tour or if I'm doing some stuff where, you know, I don't have a ton of time to play. You know what I mean? It's all contingent on availability, really. But I try to play as often as I can.
What's the who's the craziest person you've played with? Like, you know, maybe musician wise, or somebody we wouldn't expect.
Crazy. I really haven't played with any. You know, I mean, you know, Nico from Iron Maiden is a friend of mine and someone I play golf with a lot. He's certainly not crazy, but he's certainly an extremely famous metal musician who most people wouldn't even think that he would play. People probably don't think that I play either, but I mean, he's a good golfer and a good friend of mine, and so every time we get a chance to play, that's good fun. I mean, Tim Ripper Owens, I play with him whenever I can as well. Who, you know, he sang with Judas Priest for a number of years, and you know, guys like that. I mean, you know, there's not a ton of rocker guys that I play with. There's really a handful, but you know, when we get to go out, it's a good time. Mike Mangini from Dream Theater is another guy who I play with a little bit, and you know, we just really enjoy playing when we get a chance. So it's a good time.
Yeah, it's great. I just heard, I guess, Alice Cooper say that he still plays 6 days a week, even on tour. I was like, wow, that's just a lot of golf.
Well, it's a good time. It's a good way to kill time on the road because, you know, you're not playing the show until, you know, 8, 9, 10 at night, and you're just kind of, you know, you arrive at the next city in the morning, 9 or 10 in the morning. It's like, you know, you're just twiddling your thumbs for potentially, you know, 6 to 10 hours. So golf is a great way to kill a lot of time and to go out and enjoy yourself and just, you know, get a breath of fresh air. You know what I mean? It's not for everybody, certainly, but, you know, I can understand why Alice plays as much as he does. I mean, I think once you get, I guess it's like anything, you know, and once you get hooked on something, you know, sometimes that's for life. And golf is certainly one of those things where I think if you have a passion for it, I think you're just a golf nut for life, like I am. So it's not a surprise that Alice plays as much as he does.
Can I get one good, you know, like you were part of the Big Four. You know, what are your memories of participating in the Big Four?
That was a lot of fun. I mean, the first show that all 4 bands played was in Warsaw, Poland, which to me was probably the most exciting show of them all. Everybody knows the Sofia, Bulgaria show that was filmed and put on DVD and all that good stuff. And that was in front of, I don't know, 50, 60,000 people. But what most people don't know is the first show that happened was in Warsaw, Poland. And depending on who you ask, I think there was about 105 or 106,000 people there. And it was really exciting. Everybody could kind of feel the excitement in the air. You know, it was a long time coming for all those 4 bands to finally play some shows together. And it was a really exciting time and a really positive vibe going around with all 4 bands, and it was fun to be a part of that. You know what I mean? That's something that I was glad that I was part of that. You know, so I have nothing but fond memories of all those shows. I mean, again, I think those bands played, I don't know, 20 something odd shows total, something like that, maybe 20. And it was all good stuff, you know. We played Yankee Stadium. We played, you know, Indio, California. That was another big show. And all the shows were monstrous shows. So I have nothing but good things to say about my experience with all that stuff.
Was 106,000 the biggest crowd you played in front of?
Yes.
And what is it?
I've played a lot of big shows, you know, 60, 80, 70, 50, you know, whatever. I've played countless shows and festivals over the years of that. But that one just kind of, and again, it could have been that show, even if it was 60,000. I don't think it would have mattered because there was so much excitement backstage with this finally happening with these 4 bands. And Behemoth was the opener as well, which sucked for me because I missed them, and I'm a really big fan of that band. And by the time we showed up that day, they had already played. So that's the only thing that kind of bummed me out was I didn't get to see their show, but you know, but everybody was so focused on delivering the goods that day, and I know there were some butterflies. I'm sure with all 4 bands, just want to go out there and give the best show they could. So it was an exciting time.
Yeah, absolutely. So from your vantage point, what does 106,000 people look like? Does it just look like a sea of people, or do you see the end? I mean, what does that look like?
In that situation, you couldn't see the end. I mean, it was so big that they had another PA system, PA speakers set up way back. So because it was so far back, there was like almost like a time lapse. Mm-hmm. So they had like video walls like way back, and another set of PA speakers and stuff, so the people way back could kind of keep it in time, where if you were looking at the real stage, there wouldn't be like that 1 or 2 second delay because it was so far back. That's how far back it was. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was. I was looking out and I couldn't see the end of it, the end of the people there. So, and again, it was almost like, it wasn't like really wide. It was like very, very long. So, it was cool. But for me, I mean, again, it didn't matter 50, 60, 40, 80, 100,000, whatever it was. It was, just going out there and trying to deliver the goods the best you could.
Yeah, absolutely. Is your brother Glenn doing anything these days, musically?
Glenn's had a studio for years now. He keeps busy with producing bands and doing a lot of recording stuff. He plays the Testament once in the blue moon when Alex has that satisfies him in that regard. But by and large, he likes, he enjoys being working in a studio and producing other bands and that kind of thing. So, he definitely stays creative. There's no doubt about that.
Well, Shawn Jover, man, I appreciate you taking the time tonight. We're going to finish this off with the new single MIA off of Old Scars, New Wounds, out September 29th on Metal Blade Records. Can you give us a little story on the song?
That song, that was one of the first ones. Actually, Chris wrote that song, the music for that song, the first one that he submitted. And I really, I like all the songs on the record. I'm not just saying that. I really, really do like every song on this record. But that was the first one, I believe, if memory serves me, that Chris turned in as in demo form for everybody to listen to. And I'm like, I loved it right away. I just thought it turned out really well, and I think Chris did a really good job of writing that song.
All right, guys. Well, here's MIA off the new Active Defiance album.